He hadn't heard that sound in over 10 years, but the moment it tore through the night, it split something deep inside him, like lightning through old scar tissue. It wasn't just a roar. It was a memory screaming a voice buried beneath a decade of silence, a sound too familiar to ignore, too painful to forget. It dragged him backward through time, through nights filled with quiet ache and dreams that ended in emptiness. He had buried it all, the bond, the weight, the love. But this sound, this impossible sound, was proof that some connections don't break. They wait, they burn. And when they call you, don't ask why, you just move. Your body remembers what the mind tries to erase. He ran through darkness and dust, not toward danger, but toward a part of himself. He, thought, had died, a part shaped like a creature with golden eyes and the silence of home. Each morning he rises with the sun, his movements slow, deliberate, shaped by years of survival. Yet hollow in their rhythm, he walks the edge of the waterhole where younger lions once circled and played, where echoes of a softer past seem to shimmer in the heat haze he eats when he must rests, when the shade stretches long. But his eyes linger too long on empty spaces, on the horizon, on the trees, where no voice calls. He does not chase the wind anymore, does not roar without reason, but sometimes late at night, when the world is breathless and still, he lifts his head and stares at the stars as if waiting for something unnamed, something lost, a shape in the dark that never comes, a scent in the wind that never reaches him, and no one sees how he circles the same patch of earth before sleep, like he once did at someone's feet, not out of habit, but hope. Like the body remembers, even when the heart tries to forget. He didn't understand the gate, the sudden silence, the way the familiar scent faded as the truck disappeared into dust. He paced for hours, calling once, twice, then never again. Something cracked in his chest that day, something wordless and wide. He waited, by the trees where they used to sit, where hands once brushed against his mane, where warmth used to live. But no one came, so he walked into the wild, not as a king but as a ghost. And in another part of the world, Daniel stared at his empty hands, haunted. By the weight of goodbye, he'd told himself it was right that wild things belong to the wild. But rightness didn't quiet the silence in his bones. Days passed, then months, and still every sunset pulled his eyes west toward memory. He stopped speaking. About the lion, stopped showing the photos, stopped visiting the place where it all began. But grief doesn't vanish. It shifts, becomes quieter, heavier. It settles beneath the surface like stone underwater. They both grew older, wore new scars, learned to survive without the other. But neither healed completely, because when something lives inside you so deeply, its absence becomes a room. You can never leave, even if no one sees you inside it. Let me pause for just a moment and ask you, where are you, listening from right now? Have you ever felt it? That quiet, almost impossible moment when someone, maybe even an animal, remembered you after years apart. That feeling that something deep and true never really left. If this story touches something in you, take a second to follow. There's so much more to come. Stories that speak not just to memory, but to the heart. It started with a sound that didn't belong to the night. A roar not filled with power but pain. Something cracked open in the air, and Daniel sat up, heart-pounding breath. Caught as if a name had been spoken, in a voice he hadn't heard in years. It made no sense. It couldn't be real, but the feeling was too sharp, too specific. And then came the flood. A flash of golden eyes, a firelit tent, the weight of a young lion's head resting in his lap. The nights of silence broken only by trust and breathing, stumbled to his feet, hands shaking the others in camp. Didn't wake, but he was already gone, flashlight swinging wildly, boots hitting the earth as if pulled by something ancient. The past rose up in fragments, the gate closing the look in Shumba's eyes. The silence afterward, the years spent trying to believe the lion had forgotten him, because believing that was easier than hoping. Daniel's thoughts raced louder than the wind. What if it wasn't him? What if he didn't remember? What if this pain was just a ghost, but deeper than fear, stronger than logic? Something inside him whispered, You made a promise, and now he's calling. And no matter what waited in the dark, Daniel knew this wasn't a decision. It was a return. Because some moments are more than memories. They are unfinished stories asking to be lived again. Dust rises beneath his feet, the night pressing in like a held breath. He stumbles into the clearing, lit only by the dying moon and the flickering chaos of movement and sound. The lion they're surrounded, breathing, hard-wounded, but proud. His head low, his body trembling. The hyenas circling closer, cruel laughter echoing through the dark. And Daniel doesn't think he just shouts his voice raw with terror and memory. He hurls stones waves, his arms yells words that no one but the lion could understand. The hyenas pause, hesitate, then scatter into the dark. Their hunger thwarted, silence falls, and in that silence, Daniel sees him, really sees him, golden eyes clouded with pain, but still shining. And the lion looks back, unmoving breath, shallow. And then there's a flicker, something subtle, a pause in the way. His ears shift, the way his head tilts, as if a part of him recognizes the impossible. Daniel takes one step forward, then another, hands open, voice shaking. He whispers his name once softly, like a secret, like a prayer, and for a moment, nothing moves. Not the air, not the trees, not even the stars. But then, slowly, the lion blinks. His shoulders soften, not in fear, but in recognition. And he leans forward, not as a wild animal, but as something reaching across time and silence, toward the only thing that ever felt like home. And Daniel drops to his knees, tears hot on his cheeks. He doesn't speak again. He doesn't need to. The space between them closes not with noise, but with knowing the way a scar and a hand remember each other. And in that fragile, breathless second, what was lost is no longer lost. It was waiting. Just like this, just like them. They don't rush. The morning, the light creeps in, gently painting the earth in gold. And in that hush, Daniel sits close, but not too close, letting the lion breathe, letting the silence stretch and settle. And the lion watches him, not with fear, but with something softer, cautious, but open. And then a movement, slow, deliberate. The lion shifts his weight, pressing his side just slightly into Daniel's leg. Not a plea, not a demand, just presence. And Daniel exhales a sound that is half a laugh, half a sob. He reaches out, hand-trembling fingers hovering, before finally brushing against familiar fur, and the lion doesn't pull away. He stays still warm, solid, real over the next days. They move together, at first carefully, quietly, but with each sunrise, something builds a rhythm, a trust. The lion starts to lift his head sooner, walk farther, his eyes clearer, his breath stronger. Daniel hums sometimes like he used to when they were young, and once the lion lets out a low, playful huff, nudging Daniel's arm with his massive head, and Daniel laughs freely, fully, like something inside him cracked, and light came pouring through. He no longer counts the years, or the distance. He just walks beside the creature who never forgot him. And the lion no longer searches the horizon, because what he waited for has come back, in gestures, in glances, in the quiet knowing between two hearts that were never really apart. And as they rest beneath the stars, the same stars they once shared as boy and cub, Daniel places his hand once more on the lion's mane and knows, with absolute certainty, some things aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be felt and remembered. And when they return, they change everything without asking, without warning, like a breath, like a name, like home. Some bonds are beyond language they live in, glances in silence in the space between two heartbeats. They survive years without touch, grow quiet but never fade. They wait patient as the sky, and when the moment comes, they return not with thunder, but with stillness, like a hand reaching back, like breath shared in the dark. And when they do, they don't just bring comfort, They bring back the parts of us we thought were gone. They remind us who we are, who we were, and who we still might be. Because real connection doesn't vanish. It simply waits for the right moment to find us again. And when it does, it doesn't ask for anything. It just stays.